What's up, everyone? Welcome to the NBA Daily Podcast, your home for useless news about the NBA. My name's Dawson Shine, and welcome back. We've been on a hiatus this past week or so because I've had a lot of testing going on in school and haven't been able to make too much time to put together a video for you guys. And I don't want to put out content that's subpar because it's already pretty low. So, today we actually have quite a bit to break down and quite a bit to talk about. Starting off, we're going to be talking about the Toronto versus the Miami Heat series, which is still going strong with Toronto up 2-1 after a great win in Miami, 95-91, May 7th. This game was really good, incredible even, except for the fact that two of the star players so far in the series got injured. For Toronto, Jonas Valanciunas in the third quarter went out of the game with a right ankle sprain, but he had 16 points and 12 rebounds before that happened. He was huge on the offensive end, putting back missed shots, getting offensive rebounds, and also playing pretty good defense protecting the rim, surprisingly enough. Unfortunately, with that right ankle sprain, he is now out for the rest of the series and has no possibility of returning even if the series goes all the way to a Game 7. On the other side, Hassan Whiteside went down in the first quarter with a right knee sprain, a sprained MCL to be exact. They figured that one out after the game. He had a really rough game, obviously, did not get to play at all after that. He had 6 points beforehand, nothing else, and then without him, the Heat went down pretty big, down 14 at one point, due to the fact that they had no rim protectors except for Udonis Haslem, which is pretty much just a corpse now. But thanks to Dwayne Wade's heroics, with 38 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists, they were able to stay in close, especially in the third quarter when Dwayne Wade erupted in the third quarter to get this game tied going into the fourth quarter and give Miami a chance. But unfortunately for Dwayne Wade, his heroics were not enough because he played against Kyle Lowry, who actually showed up to a playoff game, surprisingly enough, especially after Jonas Valanciunas went down with the injury in the third quarter. He had his best career playoff game, 11 for 19 from the field, 5 for 8 from 3. He had 33 points, 2 assists, and a steal. But really, his contributions were on the offensive end, shooting. For the first time in his NBA career, he had above 50% shooting in a playoff game. He hadn't topped 35% in the series or the last series against the Indiana Pacers. It was just an awful shooting stretch to watch. But he came out and he showed up finally and played really well. Also, his running mate, DeMar DeRozan, had an okay game. He continued to shoot poorly, 6 for 17, but he got to the line consistently, 8 times to be exact. He had 19 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists. Only 2 turnovers as well, which is huge because he had problems turning the ball over. Unfortunately, with the bad news from Jonas Valanciunas, Raptors fans need to be a little bit worried. Without JV in there, they're going to be lacking a lot of their presence in the paint, especially in the offensive end. He was eating up Hassan Whiteside. But now, without him, they're going to need to find someone else on their roster who can step in the center position and defend well, which could be Bismack Biyombo, for example, or score well, which is no one. They have no one really at the center position that can actually score consistently. Louis Scola is basically just going to be out there to suck up minutes and just hopefully save time for Bismack Biyombo to catch a breath. Biyombo, on the other hand, is going to either need to play out of his mind, or Dwayne Casey, the coach, might have to turn to some players like Jason Thompson, who they just signed and hasn't really gotten a lot of minutes, or Bebe, who hasn't really played at all in this series, and has basically just been a statue on the bench. Without that great offensive presence of JV, they're going to be flustered to try and find someone else who can consistently score for their team and get them buckets, especially in the paint. So, we'll see what they can do moving forward, but honestly, the Heat might be better off without Hassan Whiteside than the Toronto Raptors are without Jonas Valanciunas. Though Hassan Whiteside is a great defender, help side blocker, and everything like that, he was getting eaten alive in the matchup against Jonas Valanciunas. And so, without Valanciunas, they're not going to be winning that matchup, and they're going to have far fewer winning matchups in the series. It'll be interesting to watch going forward whether or not they can actually adjust and have players step up big in the playoffs to close out this series. They need 2 more wins, and they got a potential 4 more games. So we'll have to wait and see what they can do to try and take this series away from Miami. Another series that did get taken away was the Cleveland Cavaliers versus the Atlanta Hawks, which ended today, not even an hour ago, with the Cleveland Cavaliers beating the Atlanta Hawks 100-99 to complete the sweep. Not a gentleman's sweep, nothing like that. No 6 games, no 7 games, 4 in a row, crushed them at full strength, both teams. And it was brutal. Throughout the series, Cleveland shot incredible from 3, setting 3-point records in Game 3, and also setting the NBA record for the first time ever having more than 23-point field goals in 2 consecutive games. That was games 2 and 3. And then today, they had 16 more. Despite poor shooting from the field, they had another great shooting night from 3. And the team really played well, especially the big 3. Kevin Love was 8 for 15 from 3. Overall, he was pretty poor from the field, shooting 9 for 25, but that 8 from 15 from 3 was really the key component to winning this game. He had 27 points, 13 rebounds, huge game. LeBron, he took 23 shots, he made 10 of them, didn't make a free throw, but he got 21 points and was also huge at the end of the game. He hit the go-ahead layup with only 1:16 remaining in the game to put them up 98-97 against the Hawks. And then, not even 30 seconds later, he hit a fadeaway jump shot to make it 197 and put the game almost out of reach, which then a couple of good defensive possessions, despite Schroeder trying to make it close, made sure the Cleveland Cavaliers close out this series and this game. Speaking of Schroeder, he had another amazing game for the Atlanta Hawks. 21 points. He had 6 assists, 3 rebounds, and only 2 turnovers. That's pretty huge considering the fact that he's their bench point guard. He's their backup. Their starting point guard, on the other hand, Jeff Teague, in this elimination game, had a nice 5 points, 2 for 5 shooting, 2 assists, and more turnovers, 3. That's pretty poor performance from the starting point guard. He actually didn't play that much in this game. Schroeder played more minutes, with Teague only playing 22, Schroeder playing 25 minutes and 46 seconds. That's pretty good, especially because Schroeder might become the future option for the Atlanta Hawks if they decide to let go of Jeff Teague in the offseason. Honestly, he hasn't been playing that great, and he's very, very inconsistent. Schroeder, on the other hand, has started to show up, and even showed the fact that he can actually shoot the 3 a little bit. Now, I'm saying league average. He shot 1 for 3 today, but not even a year ago, I wouldn't even look at him shooting a 3. I would have just cringed. Now, I get a little worried because he might actually make them. That's pretty impressive to consider how much he has worked on his game, especially in the last offseason. So, moving forward, I think the Atlanta Hawks might be giving Schroeder the contract that Jeff Teague wants instead, and pay him like Reggie Jackson got paid probably up in Detroit. Obviously, I don't know if Schroeder is as good as Reggie Jackson, but I think it's a similar situation that the Oklahoma City Thunder were in not even a year ago, when Reggie Jackson, who was their 6th man, their backup point guard for Russell Westbrook, felt like he was good enough to start, and he felt like he wanted to go somewhere else to start. Schroeder is in the same position. He believes that he is good enough to start and play for a team. Now, is he? I'm not sure. I believe he has a really good role on the Atlanta Hawks, especially coming off the bench, but I think he might be ready to try and start for a team. And if that's the case, Schroeder might potentially leave the Hawks for another team in free agency, simply because he wants to start. And that's going to give him the best exposure and the best future contracts. Now, if Atlanta wants to keep him and have him be the future of their starting point guards, they're going to need to let Jeff Teague go or relegate him to the bench, which is not going to happen. Jeff Teague would never accept that, and he's probably too good for that, to be honest. That will leave a really interesting controversy in the offseason, which is not the only controversy that the Atlanta Hawks will have, because they also have to worry about Al Horford, who will be a free agent in the offseason, and today had a pretty good game. He had 15 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists. That's solid, not great. He had 7 for 14 shooting, 1 of 5 from 3, but he was pretty insignificant on both ends of the floor compared to some of the games he's had in the past in the playoffs. With what he showed in these playoffs this year, I think that he's not going to be as key of a free agent as many people predicted at the beginning of the season and even during it. He just looks like he's not as good. Honestly, he's had some really great games in the past, but he's starting to get on the older end for players. Not out of his prime just yet, but he's kind of starting to decline. And his peak was never amazing. It was an all-star peak, but it was never amazing. He wasn't going to drop 40 on you too often, if ever. So, the fact that he's starting to decline even now and just showing less of an impact on the defensive and offensive ends is discouraging at best. Because teams were looking to actually trade a lot of players and a lot of picks to get him before this season. And in the offseason, they were looking to give him a huge contract, especially with the cap rising in the offseason. But after watching him for 10 games in the playoffs, I'm not impressed. He's just not showing that spark that teams were looking for and were willing to pay a lot of money for. Players like Hassan Whiteside have that spark and have that innate ability and also that peak of ability that makes you want to pay them and max them. He's not even close to that. Paul Millsap, on the other hand, is a huge player for the Atlanta Hawks and is their best player. He had 19 points today, 9 rebounds, 3 assists. He didn't have an overall impactful game. He shot 5 for 12, but honestly, he should be taking more shots. That's one of the main problems. He is a great player, as we saw in that amazing performance against the Celtics when he dropped 46 on them and was effectively unstoppable for most of that game. That was the player that everyone has envisioned him to be, and he's really shown to be. He's going to be a key component for the future of this Atlanta Hawks organization, but the question is whether or not they can improve enough to really make a deep run, because twice, 2 years in a row, they have been swept by the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are the benchmark for a great playoff team, and they're the benchmark for a contender coming out of the East. If you can't beat Cleveland, you can't become the contender in the Eastern Conference. You just won't make the finals. Cleveland is the best team in the Eastern Conference for a reason. Their team is built amazing. They have LeBron James, they have Kevin Love, they have Kyrie Irving, etc., etc. They are too good to ignore, and if you want to play in the finals from the Eastern Conference, you need to find a way to beat them. Atlanta has not found a single way to beat them 2 years in a row. So we're going to be looking in the offseason to see whether they can. And now, even though Atlanta couldn't prolong their series, one team did prolong their series for another couple of games. That was the Portland Trail Blazers facing off against the Golden State Warriors in Portland in the formerly known as Rose Garden. Portland won this game 120 to 108 in an amazing shooting display. It went back and forth all game between the Golden State Clays and Draymonds and the Portland CJ McCollums and Damian Lillards. Now, the reason why I say that is because basically no one else in the Golden State Warriors showed up in this game. Draymond Green, 13 for 23 from the field. Now here's the kicker, 8 for 12 from 3. He shot better from 3 than he did from the free throw line, where he shot 3 for 6. He had 37 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists. He dropped a LeBron and change, and it was incredible to watch. I never thought he could shoot this good, considering not even a few seasons ago, people doubted whether or not he could shoot at all from 3. Never mind 66% in a playoff game. And Klay Thompson had another almost quiet, amazing game. 14 for 28, 5 for 9 from 3, 35 points. Overall, great game. Everyone else on the team did nothing. Especially Harrison Barnes, looking at you. The guy who wants a max contract in the offseason and shoots 2 for 8 in a playoff game that would have basically clinched the series, putting them up 3-0. He had 7 points, 6 rebounds, and that's it. He shot 25%, was a minus 14 in the game, which is only topped by Ian Clark's minus 20, and was overall pretty much useless. Also, Andre Iguodala, who, as we all know, was the Finals MVP from last year, and has really been key in this series in helping the Golden State Warriors keep up without Steph Curry, who they didn't have again. He was 0 for 5 from the field. He had 1 free throw make. He had a point, 4 assists, 4 rebounds, a turnover, and that was it. He was relatively useless out there, considering his impact, especially in Game 2. And also Sean Livingston. Despite having 10 assists, he only had 5 points and only took 4 shots. He needs to get more touches if he wants to really take over this game like he can and should. He could have posted up the entire game, taking it right to Damian Lillard, and instead, he was passing the ball. He distributed the ball like he should, but the problem was he didn't take over enough possessions to help carry this team, especially when Klay Thompson and Draymond Green needed a rest. That was the problem. Hopefully in Game 4, they can try and fix that to help get the series 3-1 instead of avoiding the 2-2 tie, which we all know Portland really wants. Speaking of Portland, incredible game, especially from Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. Damian Lillard was 14 for 27, 8 for 13 from 3, especially in the fourth quarter, looking like absolutely incredible. I don't want to say looking like Steph Curry like I was about to, because it was Damian Lillard-esque. Damian Lillard is a great shooter, and he's been a great shooter without the influence of Steph Curry. And he can hit from basically anywhere on the court. You could almost imagine what the series is going to be like if Steph Curry comes back before the Portland Trail Blazers are eliminated. He dropped 40 on them, 10 assists, 5 rebounds, only 3 turnovers. Overall, incredible game. CJ McCollum dropped 22 points on 8 of 18 shooting. He only shot 1 of 5 from 3, but he also had 4 assists, which were key. And then finally, Al-Farouq Aminu, 23 points, 10 rebounds, 4 for 5 from 3. He is really turning into a great shooter, and it's incredible to watch because he needs to be on for them to have a chance. He started the game 8 for 8 from the field, finished 8 for 9, had amazing defensive effort and shooting, and was vital to this win to make this series competitive at least. So, we're going to be looking forward to Game 4 in this series and see if Damian Lillard and the Crew can actually tie it up with the Golden State Warriors, and whether or not Steve Kerr wants Steph Curry to finally play, because they're going to need to win this game. You don't want it to be tied going back to Golden State. Now, obviously, they're going to win in Golden State, but you don't want to give it any chance, because this Blazers team is threatening. They are dangerous, and they are hungry for wins. I'd be worried about them, but that's for the future. Obviously, we got to enjoy today's game, which is going to be the Spurs versus the Thunder at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I can't wait, and I hope you guys can't wait. Thanks for listening. Welcome back to the show. I'm glad to be back too. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe, leave a comment with your feedback, and have a great day, everyone.